At what point does it change from I have to be here to I need to be here for me or I want to be here?
When did that happen for you?
I feel like it gradually happened for me. The first time I kind of like felt that way was whenever I was working, I was being dishonest, but I was also working consistently to earn my way onto a wilderness trip. And I think some of you know what that is, but we were all out there, and I was like really feeling like this was like the first time I'd felt disconnected to people. And I just felt like really horrible, like the whole time and afterwards, because I knew I had been lying to, everybody around me. And I think that was the first time I was like, I really need to change this, and the time where like I was really, and I relapsed after that a handful of times. And I think the last relapse I had was really when like my mindset completely changed. I came home, I was at the bus stop, I'd call my mom, my sister, and, everybody was worried about where I was at. And, she told me that Kirk wanted me to call her, and I called him and I lied. I told him that, I was still sober, I fell asleep on the bus, whatever I could come up with at the last second. And, I got off the phone and I used to feel good when I could get away with things. And I didn't like feel that way. I felt really bad, and I was like, am I really gonna go sit in outpatient tomorrow and like continue with this lie? And it was really after that, like I typed a really long email that night, got honest, and like I feel like that's when I really started doing things like for myself and not to keep my parents off my back or Kirk, away from me as far as possible. Or like my sponsor getting mad at me, Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I joined pretty willingly because of my brother. I kind of had a nice little scapegoat. I was just here to support Tim. But however, that meant I wasn't working very hard because I wasn't recognizing my own issues. And so it got to the point where I was a dry drunk, and I had about 9 months sober, and I asked to be put in outpatient because I realized I had some choices, and I could either run away from all my problems and go back out and fall into my negative behaviors, or I could, really turn it around. And I had sat in on OP a few times, and I really liked feedback people were getting, and I resonated with it. So I just decided to do what I thought was best for myself. And I do think that because I joined a bit older than the average age here, that was helpful to me. But I don't know, I've gone through waves of like wanting to be in Cornerstone, not wanting to be in Cornerstone. I was supposed to awaken in April or March of last year, and Joe pulled my awakening, and I was so mad. But I hadn't earned it yet. And so for like a few weeks, I was like, I'm just gonna transition out. And I told Joe, hey, I think I'm just gonna transition out. He's like, hey girl, that's not really a thing. So I was like, damn, I guess I'm doing this. But it was really good for me because I had my head so far up my ass. I was full of my ego. Just like, I was really like thinking like, I run the show, I know so much, I can do this by myself. When obviously, like if I was at that point, I didn't know shit. And so I was in exactly the right place. And those extra 6 months were probably some of the best ones I had acknowledged. So, love being here.
That's a great question. So from the parent perspective, I would encourage you guys to think about it through this lens. Like if I were to go home today, like me being you, if I were to go home today and I were to tell my kid, you know what? You don't have to go to those meetings anymore. You don't have to have a sponsor. You don't have to work the steps. I'm not going to give you any consequences if you don't. Would they still? It's like a could hear a pin drop in here now. Like, seriously though, like if I were to go home and tell my kid that, like, what is my kid going to do? Are they going to get on the phone with their sponsor? Are they going to go to a meeting the next day? You know, most of your kids, if not all of your kids, no, they're not. And that's okay. That's okay for your kids to be where they are. But I'm just saying, like, if you look at it through that lens of, like, if you ever get to a place to where, like for instance, like where these guys are at now, you know, somewhere along the journey, there, like Mark was talking about, their consequences quit being about like being honest, or I mean, their shots where it wasn't. I mean, there were still shots for being honest, but that wasn't necessarily like an issue for them anymore. Like there was a certain amount of self-motivation to where like they wanted to work with their sponsor, they wanted to go to meetings, you know, which is something that I can relate to. And I can't tell you exactly when that happens, but I can tell you if you're watching your kid and you're watching their behavior and their demeanor, you're going to start to notice when some of those pieces or elements are getting into place. And don't be discouraged if your kid's not there today or if they're not anywhere close to there. Like they're not supposed to be. And that's okay. That's why it's so important that they have y'all. And why you guys, other than them having healthy friends, you guys are the greatest influence that they have. You know, 5, 10 years from now, how well your kid will be doing is way more tied to boundaries that they have in their life, the accountability that they have from their parents during their adolescent years, than it is any counselor that they connected with or any group necessarily that they were a part of. And most addicts, if not all, are going to need a lifetime of tough love from their families, regardless of how long we stay sober. And then the definition of tough love is that love is not accepting wrong behavior. Regardless of how long we have sober, we still have wrong behavior sometimes. We still need people in our lives. I still need people in my life that like hold me accountable when it comes to that kind of stuff.